What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Be More. As you already know, this is the show and the segment where we talk about being better, wiser, smarter, just all the herbs with your video and live stream. I like to say in life, but video and live stream is my forte, so that's what we're doing. And again, I am joined by a phenomenal individual who has a lot to say about video and live stream, and we'll talk to her right after this.
Close the doors, walk across the corridor. We got something to show you. Media is our repertoire.
Okay, we're back, and let's just get to it. Shawanna Kennedy, come and introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello. I'm excited to be here. Yes, I am Shawanna Kennedy. I am the video productions director for Kennedy Media. What we do is help people just like you be seen, heard, and known for your brilliance through video visibility. Yeah, and I'm excited to be a part of this conversation, Dr. Chachi. So yeah, y'all already know, right? Y'all see me on a regular over here. So let's get into this conversation.
Absolutely. She's here all the time. She's here with three of her friends, the plants, over there on that side of the they're making a cameo appearance today. So plants, welcome. And how wonderful is that? It's very appropriate, the plants, because we are going to talk about some things today that are going to include Oak Bluffs, which is a section of Martha's Vineyard, right? So the plants are very appropriate. So every time I see something, I call you and I'm like, listen, I have another idea. I saw X, Y, and Z. So for a few weeks, there's been a lot of rubbish that's going on and a lot of things that are happening. But for a few weeks, I have been seeing these different things about elitism, right? In the Black community, particularly the African-American community. And it started when I kept getting things on my timeline about Jack and Jill. So for those of you who don't know, and there is one particular content creator, I hope I can remember who she is, and then I'll put it down at the bottom of the screen. But for now, I can't. But there's a content creator who sparked the whole conversation about Jack and Jill and whether it was elitist to have an organization like that. Now, before I explain it, are you familiar with Jack and Jill, Shawanna?
Yes, it's actually been some time since I had the conversation or even thought about them. But yeah, they go way back. And as always, you raise some really great questions and topics that we do need to be talking about as a people, as a culture. So I'm excited about this conversation. So what you got for the people today, Dr. Tachi?
Okay, well, let me explain what Jack and Jill is for people who don't know. I am not by any means a connoisseur of Jack and Jill. I was not even in Jack and Jill. And I am not a member of Jack and Jill now. But I have several friends who are. There is a member of my chapter of Delta who is like, I think the Southeast regional director, something to that extent, and she's my chapter member. So I'm very adjacent to this whole thing. So Jack and Jill is actually an organization, from what I understand, for mothers, right? And the mothers are the ones who join, but they're doing things for the children, their children, to make them be the best they can be, to feel comfortable in this space in the world, in the United States. And this started, I need to do more specific research on what year it started. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
1938.
Thank you. 1938. Yes. Good. So it was started by a woman and then a group of women who wanted more for their children. You can imagine African-American life in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, etc., was not very conducive to fostering self-esteem and fostering success, right? It was an uphill battle. So in order to do that, these women came together to have that. And again, I'll put all of that down at the bottom of the screen so that you have that. And yeah, so that's what Jack and Jill is. And today they do lots of different things. They do community service. I was actually a speaker for the Jack and Jill chapter here on communication. I came across the PowerPoint that I used the other day because I thought, wow, I still have this. So it's been a number of years, but and I actually started doing public speaking coaching for one of the young men that was in this chapter of Jack and Jill. And so generally, the people that were in these organizations, they tended to be at a certain level of society, right? So they were, Jack and Jill also does, some chapters do a cotillion, right? So it is really about mid to upper class, quote, society, right? It was about fostering that and the children who were there to have other children that were like them in that space, which I understand. In order to navigate where you are in your space, it's helpful to be around different types of people, but it's also helpful to be around people who understand your particular space in life and what you're going through. So I can see why that was there. However, this whole thing has sparked this conversation around elitism. And there are people that have real problems with Jack and Jill in terms of fostering a spirit of elitism. I won't go into the whole thing in terms of colorism, etc. All of that is intertwined in this, but that is what the issue is. I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
It's just the whole thing when we think about us, it's been since the beginning of time. And I hate when things that are supposed to come together as good, people do always have to find some way to criticize certain things. And sometimes when you think about community or investing, it has to, instead of you congratulating or celebrating, it turns into you being criticized. And I do actually have to applaud. I want to applaud them for the efforts. And you thinking about decades of really trying to work with Black youth. And you, like you said, Dr. Tachi, that goes back decades of, in a time where it was never heard of, uphill battle. It's still an uphill battle even right now. And to know that we should be able to just do more together because we're stronger and we're greater together. And I love what you were even getting ready to imply too about the exposure. It's when we're allowed more exposure. There's nothing like going to places that you've never been, let alone even thinking about the foods that you've never eaten. It changes your whole outlook on everything. And for what they were doing back then, I just wish they did allow the celebration. Like even now, that's why this has become such a conversation, because it's still getting the same level of criticism versus them celebrating what they were doing and bringing community together. Again, investing in the community. So yeah, I want to know more and talk more about this.
Absolutely. So you said something that is a clue that is key here to the whole thing. Celebrating excellence. We have never been allowed to fully celebrate milestones, achievements, excellence. You see it happening, but then there's always somebody that must be nice, can never let you have and celebrate. There's the whole old adage of crabs in a barrel mentality. I need you to be back down here with me. And if I can't have it, neither should anyone else.
I hated it. It's always like, so nobody makes it out, right? I mean, like nobody can make
like
it
good
out.
Times, like good times, like good times.
Nobody can ever make it out.
Nobody, even when there's a modicum of a bright spot where you could possibly make it out. No. So the thing is, and it's that same conversation that happens around people who happen to make it out of tough predicaments, not forgetting where they came from or whatever. I don't want to remember. I don't want to remember that there were rats under. I wouldn't.
That is a whole episode. That is a whole episode. If you guys are looking and listening, y'all need to give her some love in those comments, because it's you know what? Recently, I was a part of a mastermind. I have several coaches, and one of the things that was even said during a period for me, and we've actually said it here on this show, and thank you for allowing me the space to be vulnerable when I think about my sister in her transitioning due to breast cancer. And it's being able to be vulnerable online, right? And because of the things that we get to do in business, it's promoting that. But then I said, because I promote visibility and people do celebrate me. So thank you for those who support me. However, in this season where honestly, and I'm rightfully so, to everything there is a season. And in this season of my life, if I'm being honest, I am experiencing in real time moments of deep grief. And so one of the things that I said too, I don't get to fall apart. How about that? That's a whole nother conversation. And when I think about the conversation, it was more or less the saying about getting out. I never want to see, even though I know they don't have them anymore, but I never want to see another food stamp in my life. It's been a couple of decades since I've had to deal with that experience. And it's kind of like this. Why can't we have something? Why can't it be okay to say, you know what, my children, especially my youngest, she don't even know what that is. Talking about something digitally. What is a paper food stamp? I mean, so it's like celebrating the fact that you have come out. You don't have to see things that look like cats. That's the reason why I could never live in New York. I'll just say that. So bless you.
It's not that. I guess it's all relative. It's not that bad. It can't. Look, DC was worse. I saw some cat rats in DC. I have to say that.
Hey.
Listen,
there are some things I never want to see. I don't want to see it. I will believe you the first time. I'll believe you.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. We are by no means saying that you have failed yourself or that you are a failure if you happen to have gone through or lived with these things. Not at all. But when you do decide to do something for yourself to make it out of that, it's okay to celebrate you're not there anymore. You don't have to keep yourself humble by going back to, no. Nobody else does that. And I don't think we need to either. So 100%, I feel that. So we need to be allowed to celebrate those wins. You know how they always talk about in these coaching programs, celebrating the wins? I think this is for everybody, not just people in coaching programs. Allow yourself to celebrate those wins. The fact that I'm no longer at this point, I have surpassed and transcended this point. So allow yourself to celebrate that. But it's also, I think, seen as a weakness. I'll never forget. I used this what is the name of the documentary? Byron Hurt is the filmmaker, and it's about hip hop beyond beats and rhymes. Now, I haven't used it in a while, because it's from like the early 2000s when it was made. And so, but I used to show it to my students at Morgan. And then when I got to my university here, I would show it to them, in the early days, like when I first got there. But I remember Busta Rhymes saying, and you know what, the whole thing is, Busta Rhymes is such an emotional individual and he has such depth. I love the way he enjoys things. But I remember in that film, he was telling everyone, they were talking in a group, it was him, Mos Def, it was a few people. And he was like, I remember when my mother said that we were moving, because they grew up in Brooklyn and they were moving out to, I think, Long Island. She said we were moving to Long Island, and I was vexed. Meaning that he would no longer have that street cred by not living in Brooklyn and living in Long Island. Now, Brooklyn is wonderful. I lived in Brooklyn, but there's some parts of Brooklyn, especially back in the 80s, etc., that,
we used to live down. Look, we used to live down the hill, right? We're literally down the hill, which means, of course, that puts you in a lower zip code, right? So then when we moved up the hill, that was like a whole big thing to then say, well, you don't stay down there anymore, which means you don't even go down there anymore. It's where we really have to be okay, because that is a part of our why. Let me say that. Based off the areas that you are in, like celebrating them. You talk about going back to 1938, when all of this stuff happened, it's saying, what is that? And that's why our Our why has to be bigger than any fear that would hold us hostage, right? So we do have to be okay to pat ourselves on the back with the help of God, pat ourselves on the back and celebrate even in the middle, not just at the end. Like, one of the things that I had to get over was saying from January to December, and I'm going to wait to December to celebrate. No, that's why there's such thing as Christmas in July, because every now and then we have to be okay to celebrate in the middle, to mark where you've come from, to mark what you're doing so that you can know where you need to go. It's, if you come out of a place, yes, knowing what platform to tell parts of your origin story to, right? We have to know so much about our backstory because we have to be relatable, not just likable. I say lovable, but what is the origin story that will allow somebody to say, they get me, right? Knowing, when we think about 1938, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, hey, we ain't got to talk about the cotton field, but you get where I'm going. It's those things to know when you talk about dirt roads, no street lights. I know where my mother has come from. To look at her birth certificate and know that her birth certificate says the plantation. Are you serious? This is the world that we're living in. My oldest sister picked cotton. My oldest sister picked cotton. So when I think about and celebrate the lives that we get to live right now by the grace of God, we have to be okay to get over all of this criticism. And that's why you get out of your head, tell the back of your mind, for some of us, to shut the hell up and do what you know that you need to be doing, because that is part of the problem. It's not always even the crowd. Sometimes the critic is the inside of your head.
It's you, your inner critic, right? Almost like an imposter syndrome, like you don't deserve to be at that place. And guess what? It's comfortable to stay where you are because it's something that's familiar.
And you don't want to do the work.
The hill is unknown.
You don't want to do the work.
Yeah, well, that's true. There's some people don't want to do the work. Some people don't want to work because doing the work is hard. Doing the work is not easy. Doing the work does not present immediate results. And sometimes it's years before you see any results. So we're getting into this whole thing, but the point, which I love, but the point here is we have to be okay to celebrate ourselves. And so when we relate that to Jack and Jill, when we look at the African-American presence in this country and how it started, everybody started from the same place. That if you're African-American, you started from the same place. Don't tell me anything else. You started from the same place. But because we are not monolithic, and everybody went through different experiences, you then get this delineation in terms of different people being able to do different things. So you had people that became, a lot of the first people that had quote unquote status were those who had fathers that were Pullman porters, right? So you see a lot of people that are young ladies that were debutantes, their fathers were Pullman porters. They had some sort of status in society. So we start to see these things. Now, let me say this does not give reason to denigrate or look down upon other people who are not there. And I think sometimes there's a feeling that people who have achieved this status look down on others. Now, and so that's not right. It's not wrong. Rather than looking down, if you're looking down, it should be so you can help pull somebody else up, not to just look at them struggle, right? On the other end of that, you also have to want it, right? There's a whole other thing. This could be a whole other thing. But to the Jack and Jill piece of this, the whole concept of this was the elitism. And there's been a whole bunch of discourse on social media talking about that, people both for it and against. I've seen people that were like, I was in Jack and Jill and it taught me this, and that. There were some that in Jack and Jill that, yeah, my chapter was a little bougie, right? And then there's some people who had never even heard of Jack and Jill, and they thought they were talking about the nursery rhyme. And then some people who had, but because they weren't in it, it was like, well, they were such and such, they never did X, Y, Z. Now, there are things to it. Initially, they did not allow single mothers to be part of it. So there were lots of different things that were hindrances to some people being a part, but there were also some good things. And this is just like anything, any organization. There are good parts and there are bad parts to it, right? But the whole concept here is elitism, and we're about to put another piece into this, the whole elitism thing. So people are already hot because of Jack and Jill, right? So then here comes Ralph Lauren, who does a campaign that they're dropping little by little on social media about Martha's Vineyard, but not just about Martha's Vineyard, more specifically about Oak Bluffs, which is the traditionally African American or Black section of Martha's Vineyard, where most of the Black people went. Not only did they do a whole campaign and drop this on social media, they had the nerve, the Ralph Lauren audacity, to do a 22-minute documentary about it, which is now, did you have a chance to watch it? I don't know if you did.
Yeah, I looked at pieces and parts of it because there were really great conversations where people giving us history too. The history that they went into in that 22 minutes was really powerful for us to get a picture, right? I love that they took the time to do that, and more people do need to go and really check that out, because it's really education in itself, just in 22 minutes. So
yes, absolutely.
I love what they were able to show and to pull together in that. Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful. First of all, the cinematography was stunning. Martha's Vineyard is beautiful in and of itself. And so to see the history, it was just wonderful. In the 22 minutes, as you said, they were able to pull a lot of history. And of course, I think a lot of people, their first, unless you actually summered in Martha's Vineyard, but if you were just a regular person who did not, your first encounter, I should say, with Martha's Vineyard may have been through media. And Matty Rich, was it Matty Rich? No, Malcolm Lee. Was it Matty Rich or Malcolm Lee? I can't remember. I'm going to look this up but made a movie called The Inkwell. Did you ever see The Inkwell?
No, I
with
did.
With Lorenz Tate.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Martin and Jada Pinkett Smith. Well, she was Jada Pinkett back then. So yes, it's all about summering and finding love and all that. As a young person in Martha's Vineyard in Oak Bluffs, right? Specifically, I think jumping the broom was I think that was supposed to be was that Martha's Vineyard or the Hamptons? See, I'm getting everything wrong.
Because they're not similar, but because
I think they were supposed to be in the Hamptons.
It might have been that was the Hamptons.
That was the Hamptons.
That was the Hamptons.
That was the Hamptons, right? Yeah. So forget I said that. That was the Hamptons, but similar type of thing, right? Where upwardly mobile African Americans were they deserved rest too. They deserved to get away, and they had a space in these various places, but Oak Bluffs is really known for that. And so, okay, back to this campaign. It's beautiful. I was snuggled up in my bed watching it, and I was like, oh, this is it. It almost is makes you want to. It's very emotional just to see this, and we know
them recalling the history of it. The some of the people to know that they experienced it. That it's nice to know, and that's the importance of storytelling as well. That's what I say, because if for those who may have never gone, it gives you a glimpse into what it was supposed to be about, what it felt for some of us to be there, especially during that time, let alone even now. So yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then of course it's supposed to be for the clothing, this whole collection. And they have a whole collection that is Spelman and Morehouse. In fact, the film was done in conjunction with Spelman College and Morehouse colleges. So I think that's wonderful. But as per usual, somebody or somebodies have a problem with it. Have a problem with the whole elitism thing comes back into it, because obviously if you are summering in these spaces, you have some sort of means, right, to be able to do that. Means that especially at a certain point of time, not every person of color had access to, and more specifically, African Americans did not have access to. So there was conversation on social media about this as well. And it was tantamount to, you were on the panel with about Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was tantamount to the same arguments that people had about the Cosbys not being reflective of Black life. No, they're not.
You know what it reminds me of too, though.
Not your Black life.
It's just when we think about stuff like this again, it's people you have to watch being the person that's the wall instead of the window to allow other people to see in, right? Just like you said too, even the whole lifting as we climb, we have got to be okay to do that. If we're saying to change a generation, if us be more mindful of the things that we're doing and the people that we have access to, so that we can help the generations to come, we have got to be more where it says open up a window. Stop being the person that's building the brick, but allow people to be able to see in. And so that's the part that you
absolutely
just like. And you don't have to be ashamed of legacy. You don't have to be apologetic if you are a person who God has grace to be able to be blessed with certain things too. That's why that part really sucks. Yeah.
But I love the fact that you said, make sure that there is a window there for other people to be able to see in, and not that brick wall. But as people are reaching back to help you, don't also carry a whole bunch of 75-pound weight so nobody can lift you up. You have to want to be lifted as well, right? So it's a two-way street. You need to reach back, but the people shouldn't be impeding you from helping you lift. You have to help lift. You have to help lift. So and all of you could see this is a mishmash of different things we're talking about, but it's all related to this whole thing. So let's bring this to this whole thing. Number one, the things I see here are the messages on social media that some are helpful in terms of, like you said, people were giving history, and you see lots of things. I saw that particularly on YouTube, lots of people were giving history, but then there were lots of people who were also spewing vitriol and saying this wasn't real, that it's elitist, etc. Both with the Jack and Jill and with the Ralph Lauren campaign, right? So social media has been used to both weaponize this and to support this. And if you're going to use social media in terms of being uplifting, there's no need for you to, it doesn't mean you can't recognize what is wrong, but to put in things that are going to be overly critical, that are not moving the conversation forward, stop doing that. And I think we all do too much of that, as a culture and just as a society. We do way too much of that. And part of that is because we want to be heard. And so even if it's something controversial, we have that desire to be seen and heard, as you say. So we use social media, even if we don't know what we're talking about. So research, know what you're talking about before you actually say something, and make sure it's moving the conversation forward. It's okay to put out these provocative topics. And it's not even necessarily controversial, but provocative topics, because it can lend new life to the topic. It can bring in some voices that were not heard before. It can help with making content. So this whole thing, the woman who started the whole Jack and Jill conversation, that's content for her. And people kept going back to her page, and it extended the conversation. So by her making this content, it extended the conversation to, you see, it's had an effect on us because we're talking about it now. So don't be afraid to bring up provocative topics in a respectful way, asking people for their opinions and for their insight, because it can become fantastic content that teaches, right? Number 3, what can you do to take the lessons from the campaign that Ralph Lauren did to invigorate what you do with your content, with your video, with your live streams? What lessons can you learn there from that? What can you take from that? How can you become a better storyteller? Shawanna said storytelling, the thing that this documentary and this whole ad campaign did well is it told a story. The clothing, for them, it may have been primary, but for me, it was secondary. I didn't even think about it. Oh yeah, I really do like what they have on. That's a really nice collection, right? But I was so into the stories of the individuals who had been there for generations That's what, and how Martha's Vineyard got its name and all of those. I was so into that the clothing was secondary to me, right? So how can you use that same spirit to create for your channel, to create content that will draw people in that same way, where we are snuggled up under covers, watching this, feeling emotional, being proud of the history. How can you do that same thing? Go ahead. Thoughts?
I was gonna say, because of course, as you were talking, it made me like, I kind of like grabbed my pen off to the side because I was having some thoughts as you were talking, because this is so juicy. We just have to remember to use those moments to reflect. We have to be able to, even in this case, because it was fashion, use that to even re-educate somebody. Because of that 22-minute video, we got a chance to look back at something that none of us probably ever looked at all, to learn more about, right? Because there are people that says, now I got to check this out for myself. It makes us dig deeper. And that same thing needs to come across with who we are as individuals, as business owners, and especially if you do something online. If you're a person that is presenting yourself online, what is it that is going to make not just the moment, but make it memorable, but it's also entertaining and educational, that someone will, years later, it becomes even an evergreen piece. So we have to be mindful when we're producing things that will live, right, in this system, this digital age. What is it that years from now they can pull back up and use a clip of you, something that you're doing to help the cause and not just be a part of the chaos and a critic in the crowd, but that you are celebrating that moment. And it's not just about being viral, but it's using your voice to uplift and empower and to share something that is going to help us not only now, but in our future.
Well said. Well said. Don't be afraid, as we've been saying, to celebrate these wins. That's another thing that came out of this, right? The whole thing is these things celebrate the Black accomplished. So whether you're Black or not, right? Celebrate your accomplishments. I think that both of these things say it's okay, despite where you come from, who you are, you should, and it's okay to celebrate your accomplishments. Don't look down on others while you're celebrating. Don't stomp on them as you're, popping the champagne. Offer them some champagne if you drink sparkling, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Don't hoard the champagne. Offer some to others, right? There's enough to go around. That's the thing. There's enough to go around. Wow. This has been amazing. And if you have not gotten a chance to watch that 22-minute documentary, it's on the Ralph Lauren YouTube channel. And it may also be on their Facebook. I don't know, but I know it's on their YouTube. Please watch it. It just really gives really nice insight. And I actually see that being a catalyst for not only other fashion brands, but for other content creators in terms of embracing storytelling in a way that makes history clear and plain to the masses. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this?
Yeah, great conversation as always. And with this thought, I think about is that we don't need to be or have to feel like we have to apologize for our access. We need to honor the legacy and be okay, and not just don't be a gatekeeper. Because I know we talk about that often in multiple conversations, but don't feel the need to have to apologize for your access, but then be okay to activate it. Use the power in which you have, which y'all know I talk about it all the time, our voice. We have to be okay to activate the access that we have to share with others. So don't be a gatekeeper. Help somebody else along the way.
Help somebody else along the way. Whew, this was chock full of a lot of things, and I hope that you all got some lessons from this. I did something similar when I talked about Alexis Bitar, the jewelry and accessories brand Alexis Bitar. Lessons from Alexis Bitar. Well, these are lessons from Ralph Lauren and Jack and Jill, basically. I hope all of this was helpful. I hope it inspires you to tell stories, and I hope it helps you to be more with your videos and live streams. Until next time, cheers.
We always here for you.